Hi, it's Cammy. Charlie talks football.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Charlie Talks Football. We're back to update you on all the latest Newcastle news. So if you're new around here, please subscribe, leave a like, it helps us out. And anyway, let's get into the video. So Newcastle have released an official statement confirming that Paul Mitchell is going to be leaving the club. He's going to be leaving at the end of June. Of course, Paul Mitchell was Newcastle's sporting director, and after what happened with Dan Ashworth, it's an interesting situation. There's been, I believe what's happened is that Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell have had a lot of disagreements potentially over transfers. I think Eddie Howe wanted full control over the transfer policy, but what do you think?
I think the timing of it's really interesting, Charlie, because, I think they had a transfer meeting after we qualified for the Champions League, and I think Howe must have said, he doesn't want him at the club.
Yeah.
And I don't think they've been aligned since he's been at the club, him and Mitchell. I think we've got different ideas. And obviously the board have backed Howe because of the successful season he's had. He's won the Cup, he's got one the Champions League. He's done really well this year. So I think they've got rid of Mitchell, and it'll be interesting to see if they bring anyone in, like a director of football or a sporting director, or will they just let Howe get on with it? They've got Steve Nixon there, who's an experienced scout and who's done a great job bringing in players. But it's really exciting times for Newcastle. But also, this wasn't a surprise to me because I know a lot of people today have said the shock, but to me, him and Howe were never aligned, and it's just sort of come to a head, and I think obviously he's left.
I agree with you. I think there was definitely some disagreements when he first came in, because I think we all know that Paul Mitchell wanted full control over the transfers and who he could bring in, and obviously that seems to clash with Eddie Howe and his ideas. So we wish Paul Mitchell best of luck, wherever club he joins. But we've got to move on now, or we're just not going to appoint a new sporting director and just let Eddie Howe take full control. But it does, what I want to ask you is, does this make you think that bringing in Paul Mitchell from the start was a completely pointless move by Newcastle? Because, if Eddie Howe always wanted control over transfers, then what was the point in bringing him in?
I think the modern structure of football clubs is there's a director of football or a sporting director, and they'll go out because managers are so busy and coaches, they've got so much to do. But obviously they want input and say on who comes in, and I think that's really important. So will they bring someone else in? Possibly, probably, but I think Howe will have to be aligned with them and be heavily involved in the process and get on with them. So, but you look at the players that Howe and Nixon have brought in, they've been quality players, they developed the players, so that's really important. Who did Mitchell really bring in for what? I don't know.
Well, he sold Kelly, he got money for Kelly.
He sold Kelly, which was good, yes, but you look at who else he's brought in. Was he part of bringing Asula in, or did Howe want him? I'm not sure on that, but it'll be really interesting to see who we go for and who they decide to bring in, if that's the case.
And you look at the Mark Gay transfer situation, that was a saga which went on for way too long. And is Paul Mitchell to blame? Because Eddie Howe obviously wanted Gay, and Mitchell didn't end up managing to bring him to the club, and it went on for so long. Surely we didn't pursue other targets.
That's a really good point, because that was farcical. It was an embarrassment. Newcastle kept going back with bids, and in the end, we never got him. Howe really wanted him, so why didn't we get him? Was that down to Mitchell? I don't know, but I think the PIF are ruthless, so they make decisions. They got rid of Amanda Staveley and Murdad, even after all the great work they'd done, they weren't happy with something. They got rid of them. They've now got rid of Mitchell, although he's here till the end of June, it said today in the statement. But it's just, they don't hang about. But it will be interesting to see if we bring someone else.
It's never a quiet day to be a Newcastle fan. You expect there's a lot of positivity because, of course, we have qualified for Champions League thanks to Man United's help, because we lost to Everton, didn't we? But it's a bit embarrassing. I don't really know who to criticise. Let's hope we can actually bring someone in who's aligned with what Eddie Howe wants to do, because it's a bit frustrating to see this has happened, because we expected Paul Mitchell to be part of Newcastle's future.
Yeah, but like I said, it doesn't surprise us because I don't think he was him and Howe got on particularly well in that respect of not as two people who don't like each other, but just maybe he's had a different vision for the club and differences of opinion. You're going to get that in football, but just want to talk about transfer news now, Charlie, because there's been lots of links to players for Newcastle today, and it's exciting. One being the Espanyol goalkeeper, Joan Garcia, who's highly rated. I think he's kept about 12 clean sheets for Espanyol. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be in their league this year. They would have got relegated because he's single-handedly kept them in that league. Apparently his agents are in talks with Newcastle. What do you know about that?
I think there's not really been many reliable sources that have said this. I think Fabrizio Romano said that there is a lot of clubs interested in him. Barcelona are interested. I think Newcastle are interested, but we've talked about this a lot, that potentially it could be a smoke screen for like James Trafford or Coble or one of the other goalkeepers we're interested in. But I think it is clear that Newcastle are interested in a goalkeeper.
And will that mean that they take over, whoever they bring in takes over the number one spot from Pope?
Yeah, possibly.
You know, Pope's a great keeper, makes great saves, but obviously he's not great with his feet or his distribution. But he has, against Everton, he made 3 or 4 really good saves, which, you know, were really important during the game. But there's also links to other players, Charlie.
Yeah, well, one of the players who Newcastle are definitely interested in is Liam Delap, the striker of Ipswich Town. He scored 12 goals for Ipswich this season in a team who has got relegated. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I haven't really seen that much of him play, but I know he's basically been having a tour of England. You know, he's been meeting with loads of Premier League clubs, including Newcastle. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've seen him play, and he reminds me a bit of an old school target man. He runs in the channels, he's strong, he can hold the ball up, he scores goals out of the box, in the box, left foot, right foot with his head. So, but I wasn't sure if he'd be the type of player that Howe would go for, because I don't know how quickly he can press, and we like really aggressive players who can press with pace. But, you know, we were told last night that he's been in talks with Newcastle, and Newcastle do want him, so that's really interesting to see how that one pans out. There's also a few defenders that we're interested in, isn't there? Is that right?
It's going to be interesting because, of course, Shaw is fine at the minute. Of course, he's getting older. Botman has his injuries, so I think we are still interested in Mark Gee, but we've just got to make sure it's not a long saga like it was the last time.
And what about the lad at Ajax, Charlie? You talked about him.
Hato, the centre-back, he's a left-sided centre-back, and there's a lot of interest in him now. I play Football Manager quite a lot, so I know him from that. He is a good wonder kid, I think, and he's definitely someone who would come in and improve the squad. He'd probably be first choice centre-back, but it's true that Newcastle are looking at a lot of targets, aren't they? One of them being João Pedro, the striker of Brighton.
We were linked with him in the past. He's a very good player. I think he'd be a good addition to the team. Also, two lads at Bournemouth, isn't it? The centre half, and Semenyo as well.
Zabani and Semenyo.
So those are players Newcastle are interested in. Be interesting to see. I think they'll want to act fast and get them over the line, get it all sorted. You're not always able to do that, but because there's other clubs after them and they're negotiating. But I think hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have a few new signings.
Well, I can't stress enough to you guys how important it is that Newcastle United get this summer transfer window right. We've got Champions League, we've got all the cup competitions as well. We're going to be playing a lot more games than we have this season, so it's key we're in.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Champions League this year we play 8 games, at least 8 games in the league. So they start in September, I think, and the Champions League draws on the 28th of August. So that's when we'll find out, but a lot more games, so we do need a bigger squad. We need more quality. We need a new forward to replace Wilson. If he goes, apparently he is getting offered a contract, but it's incentive based, so if he plays games, if he gets injured, he won't get paid as much, so I think he'll turn that down. It was clear to see Charlie at the end of the game. It looks like he's leaving, so we need a new forward, probably a new winger, a new defender, centre half. So it's like it'll be interesting to see what happens.
But if I don't want to be too negative, but if we mess up this transfer window, it's going to be so frustrating. But let's hope we get it right. There are reports that we've got a budget of around 250 million, but I'm not completely sure whether that's true or not.
Yeah, let's hope it is. And, you know, you've got to get the right players in. Like Howe says, it's no use just signing players for the sake of it. So he'll only sign players that he really wants, you know, and that he thinks are right for the club. Sometimes it takes time, but hopefully we can get it done early. And then it'll leave you in a good position for next season, because the games will be coming thick and fast. And currently what we've got is not strong enough to compete in all those games. So we need more bodies.
And we've got, Sunderland have been promoted. I haven't reacted to that yet. It's going to be great to have the derby games back, and let's hope we're winning. One thing about that game is we're talking about Newcastle needing a better squad. If we're playing Champions League, let's say we've got a Champions League game on the Wednesday and then we've got Sunderland on the Saturday, we need better players for the squad, because our players could be tired, and we don't want Sunderland to have a chance of beating us.
Yeah, I think Sunderland struggle in the Premier League. You know, well done to them for getting promoted. They've overachieved. The manager's done a great job, but they're going to really struggle in the Premier League with the team they've got.
Yeah.
They're not ready for promotion, so hopefully we can get 6 points off them next season.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We've got the fixtures coming out soon in June. Champions League, it's a massive season for Newcastle. Can we defend the Carabao Cup trophy
Fingers
as well?
crossed.
I think a lot of people have probably forgot about that because of Champions League, but we are defending that as well. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe. We've got the new Newcastle home shirt which is coming out on Thursday, so I'm looking forward to getting that. But we hope you enjoyed the video. It's nice to be back, and see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.